Hi and welcome to this lesson, folks. We've got a great one today. We're going to be looking at how to create all sorts of different lists in Google Sheets using the amazing sequence function. So we'll look at numbered lists, date lists, string lists, so text lists, and even emoji lists. So it's all coming your way, and let's begin with the most basic one. Example of the sequence function with 20 rows. I'll hit enter, and there we go, just counts down 1 to 20 for me. Okay, let me drag that across, and this time we'll start at number 10. So we'll just stick with one column. We're doing columns today, and we'll start with position 10, and that's as easy as that. Copy across again. So let's do even numbers. So we'll start from the number 2. Come in here. This time the step, which defaults to 1, we're going to change it to 2. Boom! A list of even numbers. Look how easy that was. Odd numbers, of course, also very easy. We just start from number 1, still have a step of 2, and then we can count 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. Custom steps, start from 1 or wherever you like, and let's say we want to go up by the number 17 or by 1,000. Then you can easily create lists like that. Descending numbers. No problem at all with descending numbers. We'll say sequence, 20 rows, 1 column. We'll start from number 20 and we'll go a negative step, so a step less each time. 20 down to 1. What about a negative list? Well, sequence, 20 rows, 1 column, start from -1 and a step of -1. -1, -2, -3. Great. Constant numbers, very easy, of course. Sequence, 20 rows, 1 column. Start from whatever number you want. Let's say we wanted 9 as our constant number, and the step is going to be a 0. And there we go. There's my 29s. What about grouped lists? Well, we're going to try and do something like this. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's too many. 3, 3, 3, etc. So we're grouping down in batches of 5 before we start the next one. So we'll say sequence, 20 rows, 1 column. We'll start with 1. In fact, we don't need to do any of that. We're just going to do that divided by 5. Hit Shift, Command, Enter, Shift, Control, Enter, and that will just give me this nice list like that. And you're thinking, hang on, how does that help? Well, my friend, what we'll do is we'll add in a round up. This function round up, and it just turns all of these decimals into the largest integer above. So all of these become 1. All of these group here become 2. All of this group become 3. And perfect, look at that. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, etc. So that's exactly what we want. And if you want to change the number, you can change these 2 here. So if we want to just do 3, for example, then we can do groups of 3 like that. So we'll go back to 5. Now there's an alternative way with the make array, which is a great lambda function. So what this does is a little bit like sequence. You tell it how many rows and columns you want, but then where it differs is you build this array, and each point in this grid that you create has a coordinates, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, etc. And you pass in these coordinates, the row and the column numbers, to this lambda function, and then you do something with those coordinates. So if I just leave it as r, that's going to print out the row coordinates. So this is the function here. I'm not doing anything. I'm just putting r. Enter, you see, just counts down for me. If I try C, which is the column coordinates, and then hit enter, it's just all the 1s. So because we've only got 1 column. So these 2 here, we can do whatever we like with them here. So we'll say r divided by 5. And then like last time, we want to round up. We'll hit enter, and there we go. That same sequence of 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, etc. Now there's one other way you can do it as well, by row, another lambda function. This time we need to use the sequence inside. So 20, That's our range, rather our array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 20. Then we pass in the function, this, or create this anonymous function. R just represents the value or the row number that I'm on, so 1, the first iteration through, 2 the second time, etc. What do I want to do? R divided by 5. How many groups do I want? Round it up like we saw. And there we go. It gives me that same output again. So that's the lambda functions, make array and by row. Very, very powerful. Definitely a little bit more tricky to understand, but you don't need to worry about adding this array formula designation. Now, what about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What about a grouping that looks like this, where it repeats that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over and over? How can we do that grouping with the sequence? Well, we'll start with sequence. 20 rows, 1 column, start from 1. Let me put those in explicitly this time, even though I could have omitted them at the moment, and you'll see why in a moment. Just gives me the 1 to 20. Then we'll wrap this with something called the mod function, which returns the result of the remainder of a division operation. And the divisor is going to be 5. That's the number of groups again. Then I need to press Shift Command on a Mac or Shift Control on a PC as I press the Enter key to add that array formula designation, or type that in. But Shift Command Enter or Shift Control Enter is the quick way. And there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. So it's almost there. It's just not quite there yet. What we can do is just start from position 0 this time. Hit Enter, and oh, it's almost close. At least we've got the order right now, but we just need to add 1 value to it. So we'll just say a +1 there. And now we get that proper grouping, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that works for us. Now, let me show you the make array, lambda version again, 20 rows, 1 column, lambda RC. So that's just the same setup. 20 rows in the range. Let's pass each row and column coordinates to this anonymous function. And what are we going to do with this function? Well, it's going to say mod R5. And let's see what that looks like. So it's same thing as we had before. We need to take off 1 from the R value. So we start from 0. And then we need to add 1 to the result on the outside of the modulo after that operation. And there you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Decimal counts. There we go, it's as easy as that. So I'll show you the alternative version, which we don't really need, of course, because we can do that now with that sequence direct. So 20 rows, 1 column. But it's good practice. Lambda RC R divided by 10. It's as easy as that. And this time we want to start with position 1, say. We might add in that 1 and do something like that. So you can play around with the starts here. Maybe you want to start with a 0.9, so we start from a 1. But as you see there, the sequence actually is quite a bit easier now that we can add decimals there as the step. What about this one? A 1 of 20 type counts. What do I mean by that? 1 of 20, 2 of 20, 3 of 20, etc. So it's a number with some text added on the end. That's all that's happening here. So we'll say sequence 20 ampersand, that's a string concatenation, brings strings together, of 20. If I hit enter now, it just gives me the first one. So let's go back in and make it an array formula with Shift Command Enter on a Mac or Shift Control Enter on a PC or a Chromebook. Adds that array formula, which you can also type in, by the way, and then hit enter, and there we go. The alternative version, make array, 20 rows, 1 column, lambda R and C, so boilerplate stuff. Then we just create that same expression. So we have the R, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the incrementing row number of 20. Add in the string at the end, the of 20. We don't need the array formula. It just does that automatically for us. Very nice. Okay, let's take a look at some date lists now, some examples of date lists. Sequence again. Very powerful, as I said. We'll do 12 rows this time, which will become apparent why in a moment. One column, the start day. Let's pick today, the formula today. And in fact, perhaps I'll just show you what that output of today is. 1/9/2024. That's the formula today. It just gives you today's date. Now, what's interesting about dates is if I change them to a number, let me just remove the decimal places. You'll see it's a number, 45,300. And if you're not familiar with dates in spreadsheets, they're stored as numbers. And it's the number of days since the 1st of January 1900, or it might be the 31st of December 1899, I forget which exactly. But basically, they're stored as numbers, which lets you do things like add 1 to them. And then you see it shows me as a date, but really it's that number there. And then if I format them as dates, they show up as dates. So the dates are numbers under the hood that look like dates and are formatted as dates in our spreadsheets. And of course, what that lets me do is just add 1 each time. We know how to add 1. That's our sequence function, right? So we'll say equals sequence, 12 rows, 1 column, start from today, today's date. And then the step is 1, but we don't need to put that in. We don't need to be explicit on that. And there we go. Gives me a nice count there of 12 days starting from today. If I want more, I can have 120 days. If I want to start from a different day 10 days ago, I can change that. And you can see here, because I haven't formatted down below, these are all showing as numbers still. But if we format the whole column and change them to dates, they all correctly turn into dates there. But if you want to start from today, we'll go with that and we'll do 12. Then there's your formula. You can plus or minus those dates though to move that start date. What about months? Well, we'll say sequence 12. There's my months. But what about turning them into actual months, actual dates? We'll say date 2024. There's my month, and we'll just say it's the first of the month each time. And whoop, we need to make it an array formula, of course. So Shift Command Enter or Shift Control Enter turns it into an array formula. And there we go. Okay, an alternative, make array, 12 rows, 1 column, lambda, R and C. So each row is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll say date 2024, R is the row, and then 1 is just the day we're doing. And there we go. Nice and easy. So that one's just saying build a date and each time insert the new value from the row and make it 12 down. The yearly count is very easy. Sequence, 12 rows, 1 column, start from 2024. And there we go. Now, if you want to do every 4 years because you're thinking about the Olympics, then just change that last step value to 4. So for timing, let's say we want to count from 6 a.m. upwards. So we'll say sequence. We'll say sequence and we'll do 12 rows, 1 column, and we'll start from 6. So there's my hours, 6 a.m. up to 5 p.m. But these aren't recognized as hours by the spreadsheet. What we need to do is divide them by 24 because there are 24 hours in a day. Hit Enter, Control Shift Enter or Command Shift Enter, and turn them into array formulas. Let's add some decimal places. And there we go. And what you'll notice is that these decimal places are, if you like, a percentage of the day that has passed. So 6 a.m. is a quarter way through the day. At 5 p.m., you're 70% through the through the 24-hour day. And now what we need to do is format these as times. And we might like to go in and say custom date and time and get rid of those seconds. So I can just move the other side of the thing there, get rid of that seconds there. And apply. Let's quickly see the alternative. Make array 12 rows, 1 column, lambda, R and C. So the R plus 5, that will get us the 6. Okay, so we saw that. We want to divide this by 24 and show the decimals just to illustrate. And then we'll copy this formatting with the paint format to there and just change them into times as well. And now they're recognized as actual times by Google. Okay, moving on, let's check out the letters now. Now let me introduce you to this formula char. It's the character associated with a number, char 65. And there we go. That's how we create the letter A with a formula, char 65. So keep that in mind. We'll just copy that there for a moment. Sequence. Rows will do 26 for all the letters in the alphabet, 1 column, and we'll start from 65, ladies and gentlemen. And there we go, 60. Hang on a minute, that's not the letters yet, but it does give us the sequence of numbers we need. We can wrap it with char. One more step is to make it the array formula, of course. Shift, Command, Enter, Shift, Control, Enter on a PC or a Chromebook. Add that array formula or even type it in. And there we go, there's the letters. Now, if we want to do lowercase letters, watch this. They start from the number 97. So we'll copy this across and change the 65 to 97. And there we go, lowercase letters. Now, string before or string after, we've seen essentially with this 1 of 20 that was adding strings. So see how we did that? Let's just again do it here. Product with a space after it, ampersand 1 gives me product 1. So take off that and change it to a sequence with 20. Still just gives me that 1. Of course, we need to change it into the array formula by adding array formula next to it. Now we can also do strings afterwards, sequence. So 20 rows, 1 column. Well, we don't need to do that actually because we're just doing a pure sequence like this, and add in the pushpin. We'll add a space as well. Make it the array formula, hit enter, and there we go. So let's take a look at the alternative, the lambda version. 20 rows, 1 column, lambda, the anonymous function RC, there are coordinates, and we'll do something like this. We'll say product with the space, ampersand R, that gives me the row number, that's the incrementer. And we'll add the push pin at the end for good measure. So we'll do one before and after. And there we go. What about doing just a pure emoji? Well, we'll use the make array, 20 rows, 1 column, lambda, R and C. We'll add an emoji in, and the emojis need to go between they're quotes, by the way, because they are strings. Close this down, and there we go. Now, of course, you can add a few more columns if you wish. And there we go. That's how we can do a nice block of emojis should you need. Okay, last thing to show you with the counting and with the sequences is how do we create lists that work here? Well, just to show you easy methods and then the limitations with them, if we could just type these numbers in manually and double click to send those numbers down. So that works well. And then if we insert rows, well, the row number sticks with the original row, but it doesn't fill in the row here. So really this should be 5 now, 6, 7, 8, the count should go up to 11 and it misses that. So that doesn't really work too well. How can we do a better version of that if we want to count row numbers? What we can do is we can do a count A, B to B, and just leave it open-ended. So you see how it's just counting down the entire column? That means if I add extra data in here, it will be included in this count. So that's as opposed to just saying to be 11, just delete those end references. Enter, gives us a number 10. If I add extra data, it goes up to 11. Now, of course, if we have a number 11, that's the output there, we can wrap that with a sequence. And it counts down to 11. More data, even more data, even more data. And it just does the count automatically. If I add a row in, it moves that for me. It still only gets to 14 until I filled in. Data goes here until I fill that in, and then it counts down to 15 for me. So it's important to notice these are not ID numbers. They're not attached to this row. They're just doing a count of how many are in here and generating this row numbers here for me. So they're just counting the rows. But a nice use case, a nice example of how you can use sequence with a nested function inside to do the count for you. So bottom line of the video is that the sequence function is an amazing function, super useful, well worth just remembering and using and keeping in your back pocket, because it's really useful for doing all these kinds of numbered lists. So if you enjoyed this video, folks, please consider clicking the subscribe button below or give the video a thumbs up, both of which will really help me grow this channel in the future and create more videos like this. And thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another video. Bye for now.